Welcome to Fuller Expectations, the podcast where we dive into topics like aging with confidence, navigating identity shifts, building new healthy habits, rediscovering purpose, health and wellness routines in midlife, and yes, maybe even money, retirement, relationships, and letting go of things that no longer serve you. I'm your host, Carrie Fuller, and I am so excited that you're here with me today. My hope is that our episodes feel like a blend of personal growth, real conversation, and gentle encouragement. We'll keep things honest, thoughtful, and practical. If you have not already, please hit follow so that our podcast can appear in your podcast library. We drop episodes every week, and we don't want you to miss it. And if you thought of somebody who might benefit by what you've heard today, please share this episode with them. And now let's get into today's episode. Hello, Fuller Expectations podcast family. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great episode that is going to be very helpful to anyone out there who is stagnant and remaining in a career that they're just not happy with. And we're going to talk about the cost of staying in whatever it is that you're staying in, because you just either don't know how to move forward or you think for several reasons that you have to stay. We're going to cover what those reasons are. I've talked to so many of my friends, and I'm always kind of like dumbfounded when they talk about their jobs in a way that, they really are so unhappy, but they think that they have to stay because of the fact that they've either invested so many years or the fact that they have a pension and they won't have a pension. They think that maybe they make too much money to actually start over, or they're too old to change careers. They only have a few more years to retirement, some of them. And then it's just the unknown of the devil you know versus the devil you don't. You don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes people also think that starting over would mean that they're giving up everything that they've built. But there's another question that we don't ask nearly enough. And that question is, what if staying is actually the bigger risk? So this episode isn't about irresponsibility of, walking away from a paycheck or a pension or a job with great benefits or the financial security that you've built, because those things do matter. We're not talking about that here. Some of them you can get somewhere else, but it's about recognizing that your life is happening right now. Your life is not waiting to happen until you retire. It's every day. It's today. It's tomorrow. It's this week. It's this month. It's this year. You are living your life right now. You're not waiting until you retire to live your life. So I want to talk about this today. And, the fact that this has come up in several conversations that I've had recently, I just think it's probably happening to more people out there, and this message needs to be shared. So if you ever think to yourself, I'm just having a bad day, or it's just a crazy week, I'm talking about people who on Sunday nights dread Monday, what my brother calls don't Monday my Sunday. But there's people who maybe you do. You dread on Sundays. You don't like Sundays because Monday is time to go back to work. And you're already anxious about it before Monday even comes. And there's people who carry work home, even mentally, when they're not working physically or mentally, but they're carrying it mentally. And so let's just think about the question of, have you ever thought about leaving? Most of the time, the answer is yes. But then comes the but, right? But I've been here 22 years. But I have a pension. But I'm too close to retirement. But I'd have to start all over. I completely understand all of these concerns. Financial security does matter, and benefits matter. Retirement matters. But here's the question I think we also have to ask ourselves. What price are you paying today for the security that you hope to enjoy someday? I'm going to say that again. What price are you paying today, and even in the day-to-day life, for the security that you hope to enjoy someday? Because when we spend years planning financially for retirement, and sometimes we're sacrificing our physical health, our mental health, our relationships, and our day-to-day happiness to get there, retirement is the future, right? What about your day-to-day? This is something that's worth talking about. And if you have friends or family who you constantly hear talking about their job and the crap that they just really don't like about their job to a point where it's affecting their mental health every day, or they don't like Sundays because of Monday, I want you to share this episode with them, because we have some information today that might be beneficial to anyone who feels that way. So let's talk about the golden handcuffs. There's a reason why people call them golden handcuffs. Maybe it's a pension or a salary. Maybe it's excellent health insurance. Maybe you've accumulated 6 weeks of vacation, or maybe it's seniority wherever you are, or maybe you've simply invested so much of yourself in an organization that walking away feels like you're just throwing away those years. But those years are not wasted when you leave. Again, those years are not wasted when you leave. You take your experience with you. You take those years with you. You take your leadership with you. You take your relationships with you. You take your judgment, your knowledge. You take your mistakes and everything that they taught you. You're not starting over. You're starting with that experience and all of those years of knowledge and everything that you have built that made you into who you are today. You're taking that with you. You're not leaving that behind. And that's completely different. I want everyone to understand that. So if someone offered you your exact job today, knowing everything that you know about it, would you accept it today? And if the answer is immediately no, that information is worth paying attention to. So there's something called the skunk cost trap. It's a psychological concept. It's called the skunk cost fallacy, right? And essentially, we sometimes continue doing things because we've already invested so much into it, even when continuing may no longer be the best decision. This is when you have the friends or family members or even yourself that say, I've already given this company 20 years, but those 20 years are gone, whether you stay or leave, right? Those 20 years, that's the past. So the question is not, how much have I already invested? The question is, knowing what you know today, how do you want to invest the next 5 or 10 years of your life? Don't look behind you. Don't look at what you've invested in your time with wherever you are now. If you are in a job that you don't like, because everything you gained, you are taking with you. Your physical body does not know about your pension. Workplace stress isn't simply an inconvenience. It's not. The World Health Organization identifies things like excessive workloads, long or inflexible hours, limited control over work, inadequate staffing, poor organizational culture, lack of support, and conflicting work and home demands. They classify it as psychological risk at work. And chronic stress can show up as difficulty sleeping or headaches or physical pain, stomach problems, irritability, trouble concentrating, changes in appetite, and worsening existing health problems. Do we know about health problems, people? Do you realize what this is doing to your health? Stress? Do you realize what this is doing to your health? There is also significant research connecting high job strain with cardiovascular health. Listen up. This is a big deal, guys. One meta-analysis involving more than 232,000 people found that people in high-strain jobs had a 26% higher relative risk of coronary heart disease compared with people who had low-strain jobs. 26% higher. And in a newer long-term study that was just published in 2025, this study followed more than 6,000 workers, and it found a meaningful association between psychological workplace stressors and coronary heart disease. This does not mean that your stressful boss is going to give you a heart attack. Health is far more complicated than that, but it does mean that we shouldn't dismiss chronic workplace stress as it's just work, because your body doesn't necessarily leave work when you do, right? And your body certainly doesn't understand that you're enduring all of this because there's a pension or there's great benefits that might be waiting for you someday. day. So think about what happens when you spend 8, 9, or sometimes even 10 hours somewhere that drains you. Who gets the best version of you? Oftentimes your employer does, and your spouse gets what's ever left over, or your children get whatever's left. Maybe your friends get what's left. Maybe working out and taking care of yourself gets a little bit less, and your hobbies, they get a little less too, don't they? So you get what's left over. And that's the part of career dissatisfaction that we don't talk enough about. So a miserable job doesn't always stay at the office. You might be physically sitting at the dinner table while mentally you're replaying a meeting. You may have to skip your workout because you're too tired after the workday you had. Maybe you pour another glass of wine because you need to unwind. You may stop doing things that once brought you joy because you're just depleted. Eventually, what started as a job problem becomes a life problem, right? Pouring another glass of wine to unwind. Maybe you're drinking a little more. You're working out less because you're tired. Your family life is taking a back seat to everything that you have going on at work. This is where it becomes a life problem. So now I want you to imagine the other version. I want you to think about something different here. So it's Sunday afternoon and you suddenly realize that tomorrow is Monday, except you don't get that pit in your stomach. You don't dread opening your email. You don't resent the people that you're going to see Monday. You wake up Monday morning and think, I am so excited to go to work today. Imagine working somewhere where your talents are valued, where you respect the leadership and where you enjoy the people around you, where the work challenges you without consuming you, where you leave at the end of the day with enough energy to exercise and cook dinner and maybe talk to your friends, maybe play with your kids or your grandkids, even take the dog for a walk and just simply enjoy your evening. How different would your life feel if that was your scenario? Not because every day would suddenly be perfect. There's not a career that's really completely stress-free, but the goal isn't zero stress. The goal is finding work where the reward and the purpose and the autonomy and the environment and stress are just a way healthier balance. One of the reasons why a few of my friends have talked about staying in a job that they really, really don't like and are completely stressed out about is because they have a pension. And pensions they don't really happen anymore, right? So this kind of deserves its own conversation because pensions and retirement benefits can really represent real money. I'm not suggesting anyone walk away from one without understanding exactly what they're giving up. But what I do think someone should do if they have a pension or retirement benefits that really do have, a good amount of money attached to them, what you really need to do is run the numbers. Find out what the pension is actually worth. Ask what you're already vested in. Find out what happens if you leave tomorrow versus 3 years from now. Talk with a financial advisor and calculate what another employer's salary and 401k match or other retirement benefits could mean. Do your homework because you might just be assuming things that aren't actually real. You can check into it without committing to leave, right? Ask whether a higher salary elsewhere could allow you to invest the difference in yourself. Maybe if you looked for a job that paid more and you were able to contribute more to your retirement, maybe you'd be just as well off. Sometimes people don't do their homework. They just assume. And we should never assume when it comes to something like this. This is really important. There's something to staying because you feel trapped because you can't lose a pension or retirement benefits, but you've never actually calculated what the cost of leaving would be versus the cost of staying. So you have to make the decision based on facts rather than fear. Definitely, 100%. Talk to a financial advisor. If you don't have one, ask somebody to refer you to theirs, somebody who has one that's really good. That person will help you calculate what your pension is actually worth, what your retirement benefits are actually worth if you cashed out next month versus 3 or 5 years from now or whatever. They'll tell you, and then they'll tell you what salary you need to make to be able to save and put yourself in the same exact position that you're already in. You might not be losing anything at all. So do your homework. Again, you do not have to quit your job tomorrow. Like transition in a career doesn't have to begin with a resignation. It can be quietly quitting, right? What does that mean? It means update your resume, update LinkedIn, have coffee with somebody who works in an industry that you've been thinking about. Talk to a recruiter. Take a class that gives you some some skills outside of what you're doing in your day-to-day job. Look at job postings. Actually apply for jobs and interview. It's a great thing to interview for a job when you already have a job because it gives you practice and you get comfortable actually going through that interview process. Figure out what your skills are worth in today's market and start building a financial runway. And perhaps, most importantly, give yourself permission to do those things. Looking at other opportunities isn't quitting, and interviewing isn't quitting. Exploring what's out there is not quitting. It's gathering information about what else might be possible for you. You can do that. The best time to do that is when you have a job. And sometimes just realizing that you have options might just actually change the way you feel. So let's talk about something I'm going to call the career audit. I would challenge you to sit down with a piece of paper and answer 3 questions. The first question is, if money were exactly the same, would I choose to stay? Second question, what specifically about my work is making me unhappy? Is it the profession, or is it the employer, the company, the boss, the culture, your job? What is it that's making you unhappy? Number 3, how does my job affect me when I'm not actually at my job? Do I dread it? Do I think about it when I'm not even there? Do I hate Sundays because Monday's coming? How does your job affect you when you're not even there? The fourth question, what am I actually afraid that I'm going to lose if I leave? The fifth question, have I actually calculated the financial value of what I'm afraid to lose? If you have not calculated that and you're just assuming you're going to be worse off by leaving, no. You cannot do that. You have to actually calculate it. So spend the time to do that. The sixth question, what could I potentially gain? Imagine if there's a job out there that's going to maybe pay you even a little bit more, or new people that you're going to meet, or not dreading Mondays on Sunday. Imagine having time to work out and not feeling like you need to come home and pour a glass of wine to unwind after a really crappy day at work. Those are all things that you could potentially gain. What could you actually potentially gain? And the seventh question, what would an ideal workday look like for me right now in my life? What would that look like? Not when you were 25, but now. What would an ideal workday look like for you today? And then the last question, number 8, if nothing changes, am I willing to live exactly like this for X number of years until I retire? Are you actually willing to keep on dreading your days, to keep on being stressed out, to keep on not having time for yourself, to keep on hating Sundays when you have to go back to work on Monday? If nothing changes, are you willing to keep living exactly like you're living until you retire? That's a really important question that you need to answer for yourself. Maybe you don't need a new career. There's another important distinction here. Sometimes people think they need to blow up their entire career when what they really need is a different environment. Maybe you're a nurse and you don't hate nursing. Maybe you hate nursing where you're nursing. Maybe you don't hate education, but maybe you hate the administration. If you're a teacher and you hate the administration that you're working under, right? Maybe you don't hate fundraising or finances or sales or healthcare or corporate America. Maybe you don't actually hate the industry that you're in. Maybe you don't like the culture of wherever you are, or you don't like your boss, or you don't like the people you work with, or it's something that is just exclusive to your place of employment. So before you abandon your profession that you've spent decades building, ask yourself the question, do I need a new career, or do I just need a new place to practice the career that I'm already really good at? Because again, you take everything that you learned, all of those years of experience, you take that with you, and that is valuable to another employer. So, in closing, my friends, don't retire from a life before you retire from work. I understand why people stay. Security is powerful and fear is powerful. And starting again can be intimidating, especially when you're 45, 50, 55, 60, or even older, and you've already built an entire professional identity. But your experience is not baggage, it is leverage. And you aren't the person who started that job 20 years ago. You are so much now. You've survived more, you've led more, you've solved problems, and you've learned what you're good at. And hopefully you've learned what you're no longer wanting to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So maybe career transition in the second half of life isn't starting over at all. Maybe it's finally having enough experience to make a more intentional choice. So today I'm going to leave you with one question. Are you staying because this is still the right place for you? Or are you staying because you're afraid to find out what else might be possible? There is a big difference. Your retirement matters and your financial future matters, but so does tomorrow and the next day and next week. And so does the person who walks through your front door every evening. So don't become so focused on building a good life for someday that you're forgetting that you are living your life right now. And if your career is consistently taking more from your life than it's giving to you, maybe you don't have to quit tomorrow, but maybe it's time to start looking through the door at what else is there for you. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy fuller expectations for yourself and your own life, because you are seriously worth it.
Thanks for listening today. If this episode sparked something in you, please share it with a friend, leave a comment or a review, and reach out and let me know what resonated. Remember, no matter what age or stage of life you're in, you can pivot. And always remember, the second half of life is not a winding down. It's a waking up. Please follow or subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our podcast family. Let's keep showing up and being the best version of ourselves. Until next time, take care.